Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop. Smoking weed.
All right, welcome everybody. I think week 13 was our perfect metaphor for the Thanksgiving holiday. We had games on Thursday, were fresh, delicious, and they did a fantastic job of filling our lineup with fantasy points. So it was a great start. Then we got a chance to fill our plates second time with the Bears and the Eagles. And like any leftovers, some stat lines were great and others left us a little disappointed. We hope you filled your plates with Brown, Monangai, and Swift, and left the temptation of Odunze, Saquon, and Caleb sitting untouched on your benches. But then by Sunday, the spread of leftover games still looked fantastic, but they just tasted old, dry, unappetizing. But if you look carefully, there was still some tasty desserts still in good shape, and a little Bijan mustard, well, it jazzes up pretty much any subpar leftovers. So that's it, guys. Let's get into the Empire. Chris, get us started. How was your Thanksgiving buffet here?
Wow, Dan, that was another fantastic opening. Love the rundown there. My Thanksgiving was great. The games were really good. The Ravens took Thanksgiving off. But other than that, like you said, Dan, the fantasy points were pretty plentiful on Turkey Day. And then we got to Sunday, and it was a complete effing disaster. I'm still not over it. I am a little salty today. But we're heading into week 14, the biggest week in fantasy. A lot of money changing hands this particular week in all formats. So here we go. Sunday was so bad, guys, that when you look at each position, no quarterback broke 31 points after Thanksgiving. Only 2 did, and most of them and most didn't play them. Bryce Young and Mariota were the only 2 that hit 30 fantasy points. Bijan hit 30 on Sunday. No other running back went over 21 points. Think about that. 21 fantasy points. No running back broke that. Okay. Wild. All the wide receivers scored on Thursday and Friday. AJ Brown obviously had his huge game Friday afternoon with 35. Then we had Lamb, Rice, Wicks, and JMO break out on Thanksgiving Day. The next 2 wide receivers that didn't even break 24 points on Sunday were Adonai Mitchell and Vele from the Saints, okay? Which, yes, Matt, you're fist pumping, and I'm sick still because Vele's on my benches, and I could have used him in my starting lineup, but I didn't.
I was fist pumping for Adonai.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. So here's my point. I'm watching football on Sunday, and it had me thinking. Like the action was so bad, football was so gross, no points to be had. Heading into this week 14 and and then the championship 3 weeks, who is even good in fantasy? I know it's a average question, but really, who is even good that's going to carry your fantasy teams? And I think we're to the point where it's basically a first round fantasy draft for the next 4 weeks. When I break it down and I look at the positions, I don't think there's any quarterback, okay, that you must have to win the shootouts, okay? I think there's only Trey McBride at the tight end position. And then I think we're looking at 6 receivers and 6 running backs. You're looking at CMC, Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, Bijan, Achane, and James Cook. And at the receiver position, JSN, Jamar Chase, Lamb and Pickens, Rashee Rice, and then the Rams boys, Puka and Devontae Adams. So that's 13 players right there. We're basically in a fantasy draft, a first-round fantasy draft for how many, what kind of combo you're going to have of these players to win all the money this year in these final 4 weeks. That's the way I see fantasy. The rest of the way, I think it's so watered down and we're going backwards in fantasy that those are the names you're going to need. I think that combination of those players and whoever has a hot 3 weeks, a quarterback and maybe a secondary player, okay, is what's going to take you over the top. And I have 5 players that I think might be sneaky, okay? Michael Wilson, Alec Pierce, Jacoby Myers, Jaden Higgins, and Adonai Mitchell. Some of those names might make you scratch your head a little bit, but I think these are guys that could stay hot for 4 weeks, give you 18 to 25 fantasy points a couple times, maybe even 3 times. And you look down and you got these guys in your flex position and they help you win. So,
yeah, Chris, you mentioned
guys.
You mentioned the Rams wide receivers. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. I mean, Devontae Adams has been like a cheat code. And Puka, in his last 6 weeks, I mean, he's had solid weeks. Not Puka weeks, really. He had 1 week where he's only been over 20 points one time. He's got 2 weeks with 13 points or less. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to turn it on and win people, tons of money. But it has been concerning. He did make that fantastic catch. But,
it is crazy. It is crazy. Like these last 6 weeks, it's like every week Puka's just given like a nice average score. And it begs the question, like, is Devontae the Rams receiver you guys would rather have for the next 4 weeks? Like, if you had your choice of who to take these last 4 weeks on your team, I don't know if it's a slam dunk pick where it's Puka over Devontae Adams, because to me, I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday. Devontae Adams, after JSN, might be my number 2 wide receiver the rest of the way.
I mean, he's been amazing.
The way it is now, yes. But, I mean, touchdowns are always a tough thing to count on week in, week out. I mean, he's had an amazing streak. Sometimes streaks can continue for the rest of the season. But, what if Puka takes what he's been doing and all of a sudden he's the guy who starts getting some touchdowns here?
Sure.
Then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, Puka was definitely the answer. So, I don't know. I mean, if we had a crystal ball, we could tell you, but none of us really has that crystal ball, so we gotta just put our best lineup out there. And to your point, Chris, I think teams that are a little bit deeper, that have some really good depth options, where you can switch players in and out based on matchups and things like that to complement your ultra stars. I think those are the teams that are probably going to have the best chance to really do well in the shootout. Unless there happens to be like, one magic player that comes out of nowhere and, gives us 30 points a week for 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, but Dan, real quick on Dan's point about touchdowns. If you score like 3 touchdowns in one game, yeah, okay. But Devontae Adams is scoring 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is going on for like over a month. This is, it's been insane. He's got like 11 touchdowns. So, I mean, I think it's becoming a little more predictable. Not that it's going to happen, but he has become their goal line basically back. It's wild.
I agree with all that, definitely, Matt. But you know how touchdowns can go. I mean, even if you get the usage, they don't always, the touchdowns don't always follow with the usage 100%. So, if you force me, you gotta bet your mortgage on, one player or the other. I'd probably bet it on Devontae Adams right now, but I sure wouldn't feel good about it.
No, I'll agree with that.
I don't know, guys. The point was like for me, I'm just saying, like all these mid-round guys that we were hoping like would have, the Ibukas, the Waddles, the on and on. It just seems like they're all fizzling out. I looked across all my lineups. Everybody's 6 to 8 to 9, 10 points like that. Nobody's given these explosion games. That was, the names that I just gave are the elite guys that are just carrying fantasy teams right now. And
what about Terry McLaurin? I think it depends on who you're looking at too. If your teams are heavy on the Ibukas, yeah, it seems bad. But if you've got like all these McLaurin shares or things like that, and all of a sudden he's coming back online.
Nobody's taking a Terry McLaurin team into the fantasy playoffs.
I don't see many teams up there. In the playoffs.
I've got one that's got it. So.
I mean I'm just saying that's one, but like he's going to be like few and far between for playoff teams.
Well, Dan, you may have a Terry team going to the playoffs, but that's a player that you need to go off for 3 weeks then.
Right.
And you'll have a difference maker because McLaurin's going to be a 1% owned in the fantasy overall shootout,
But real quick on Ibuka, I mean, him and Rome, if you look, their expected fantasy points each week versus their actual fantasy points, I mean, has been wild, and it's gotten to the point with Ibuka, the guy in like the last 6 weeks or more has only got over 60 yards once. He has that 100-yard game. I mean, it's been really bad. I think he has like 27 catches in his last 8 games.
Yeah, it's just disappointment after disappointment every week with Ibuka, and people are starting to realize it now. Like, holy shit, it's been 6 weeks where Ibuka's put up. I want to say, is it over 10 fantasy points? It's been 6 weeks since he's gone over. Like, he's complete. He went from superstar, like first round talent in fantasy to a bust at this point.
He's basically a touchdown.
Yeah, touchdowns. He was getting the touchdowns. He was getting the long scores. Hauling in those long passes, getting the touchdowns. The high variance plays, and he's just not getting them right now. So,
and one more question on a guy that you mentioned, Chris, just because you brought him up already. Alec Pierce. Are we at the point where he is their number one wide receiver? And it's not. It's not going to be in the game like this week. Like he's not the number one on their team per se. Like they look at it, but he's emerged as the number one wide receiver. I think
you can't argue. I mean, I don't know if you can even argue it. You've been saying it for a while, Matt. Your Alec Pierce love is justified. He did it again. Pittman had a dud. He had the tougher matchup, Pittman, this past week, but I still think it's going to be a rotation. I think this upcoming week versus the Jags, it's going to be a Pittman game. That's just my 2 cents. So it'll rotate, but I think they both obviously start. I think Pierce is now locked in as an elite, and not an elite, a top 3 locked in fantasy wide receiver. Where you used to look at Alex Pierce like, can I slip him in my flex this week? It's set it and forget it now.
He's become a complete wide receiver. He used to just be a deep guy.
Yes.
Yep. Totally
All right.
agree.
I'll pass it around the horn, guys. I got a lot of shit on my mind today that I'm going to try and get out, but go ahead.
All right. Let's hear from Nelson then next. What do you got, Nelson?
I think for me, it's more like we're in the final week of Fab and the final week for making the playoffs in the NFFC. With FFPC, it was already, 1 week into the semifinals. Teams either moved on to the final week to try to win some money or they're potentially out of the shootout if they were a 3 or 4 seed. If they were a 1 or 2 seed, then, that's kind of, whatever. You're playing for $500 and at least you have an auto ticket into the shootout. So my head's more like thinking along those lines of like, okay, where are my teams at? How are they performing? What does it look like in the NFFC with my teams? And then how am I going to put my roster together for the rest of the shootout? So with my focus, like I'm looking at it as like there's 2 guys that I think are relevant at wide receiver that is readily available in leagues that I think could be true difference makers. I'm going to do an honorable mention. I think Vele, I don't quite like, I'm not 100% like, I have Vele on a bunch of teams, but I'm not looking at him like, I can definitely count on him. Jury's still out on him. But A.D. Mitchell and Isaac Tesla are the 2 guys that I think have the juice that if Amon-Ra St. Brown misses a couple of weeks or more, I think Tesla is going to be very relevant. So those are my 2 targets this week that I would want to pick up on teams. And then, Vele is in there also in the conversation. But I just think the other 2 guys have the more juice. And the type of they've got the type of skill set that I'm looking for that I could put in a lineup and feel like, okay, I can see this guy getting 20. I don't know if Vele can get 23, a couple of times in the shootout. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. And
that offense is set up nicely, though, Nelson. And the kid popped off the screen. I'm a little sick to my stomach because I picked him up everywhere 2-3 weeks ago. And I had to drop a lot of his shares going into week 13. But Nelson, I think you saw it like I did. Vele could be a really nice piece. The offense is condensed, right? Mm-hmm. Kamara, I don't think you see him again this year. It opens up targets, even like more targets for this kid to show to throw here. It's Olave, it's Jawan Johnson, and Vele is the piece. As soon as they cut and let go of Brandon Cooks, I knew I had made a mistake by dropping Vele last week, and it made me sick. I still have a lot of shares of him. I'm going to try and flex him out this final week. He's got some good matchups coming up, but I think you're right. You nailed it. You with Vele and Adonai Mitchell here. Those two pieces, for me, I would love to have a good amount of shares of for these next 4 weeks. I think they're sneaky under the radar guys that might put 15, 20 points on your in your fantasy lineup. The Tesla thing, though, Nelson, I got a feeling that it's a one and done here. But what a great plug and play for 1 week here this Thursday if Amon-Ra sits out.
I mean, the crazy thing with Adonai 2 weeks ago, like you guys laughed, I said I went all in, and where I only had like a little money, he was available for $1.
Yeah.
More FFPC style. But, I mean, he was there. He was there for the taking.
There's a caveat with that too, though, Matt, because with Adonai Mitchell, it's the same thing with Tesla here. Could look up and Garrett Wilson could be back in week 15, and then what changes there,
Oh, absolutely.
This was an Adonai Mitchell week.
And Garrett in the X spot, though, where Mitchell's been playing?
Say it again?
I said, do you think they're really going to play Garrett in the X spot where Mitchell's been playing?
Yeah, when Garrett Wilson comes back, he's the.
I think he's going to. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be the number one target. But I think he's probably going to be playing in the Z. So Mitchell's still going to be on the field. I think they still want to see what they have in Mitchell.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying, the passing offense is Adonai Mitchell and Mechie, and they're getting all these targets weekly, and it's perfect storm because the Jets defense is and then they got some good matchups coming up down the stretch here. If Garrett Wilson comes in and he plays the fantasy playoffs here, he's got to get his 8 to 10 targets. He's not just going to be on the field running routes while Adonai Mitchell is the focal point. Everybody takes a step back now, and it becomes like Adonai Mitchell and Mechie are almost useless.
But also on the counterpoint, my main thing with Adonai Mitchell is actually catching the ball because his separation is elite. It's one of the best in the league. It's been that for when he's on the field. But if you do get Garrett Wilson back, the number one cornerback is going to Garrett Wilson, and Adonai Mitchell gets a huge advantage playing against a lesser opponent there. So, I mean, look, there's no guarantee there, but like we're saying, this is a guy that right now, I was going to play him over Troy Franklin last week, but Franklin's had eight targets or more the previous 5 weeks, but then this week, Pat Bryant played more snaps than him.
Yeah,
there was a rug.
It was a great matchup, too.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I think it's probably going to be Mechie that loses out the most. I think Adonai Mitchell is probably going to, it's going to go down a little bit, but with his ability to score from anywhere, I'll still take my chances with Mitchell.
Yeah, he's boomer bust. Like we're not saying he's a guarantee.
It's a good shot to take. We're going into week 14 here. If he's available, it's the type of guy you put the rest of your fab budget on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got a piece.
The only thing that's that would be crappy is I think what Chris's point that he's making is Mitchell's going to play full snaps, but once Wilson's back, Mitchell ain't having those monster, huge target games and putting up. It's going to be Wilson. Wilson's going to be the guy that's going to get those targets.
But again, he could have the Alec Pierce type weeks where he has 3 catches.
Sure, but he's no longer the first read.
And a touchdown.
Sure.
Okay. I think we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Shout out to the chat. Steve G went to Luger's twice this past week. You keep enjoying that steak, Stevie. That's awesome. Joey Brown, great point. We'll get to that later. We'll touch on that Panthers.
Hold on 1 second, because you mentioned Steve G, and you mentioned the Mooney take as he does every week. The crazy stat I saw this week.
Oh, it's Mooney session.
There we go.
Listen to this.
Here we go.
Darnell Mooney, when Drake London doesn't play, has a 14-point-something percentage. When London plays, he's got a 19.8. I just found that wild. I saved that one for Steve.
Matt, I swear, next year, okay, when we do the live drafts in New York, you will be in a Mooney jersey. I will get you a
But
Darnell
the
Mooney
funniest
jersey.
part again,
You
is I
will
have,
walk
like,
around
two
all day
shades.
long in a Darnell Mooney jersey, either that or a Trey Hendo jersey. Or I might get one of those like the moms wear, where it's like half Trey Henderson on one side and half Mooney on the other one.
I wouldn't mind rocking a Adonai Mitchell Colts jersey.
Here's
I'll never wear a Jets one.
Here's the thing, our one of our Empire teams is definitely going to cash in
that team's
the
strong.
tourney. Great team. We're definitely, we've got first place wrapped up in the league, I think. So we may have to take some of those funds and each of us get a jersey, maybe voted on by the other three people. So
there you go.
I think the toughest part we have going forward is the Pierce versus Pittman play every week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I agree. That will be.
All right, we're gonna real quick do a commercial. We'll be right back.
Pour one out for an incredible best ball season. It was a breakout 2025 for Fast Draft, but now the NFL action has started. That means it's DFS season. That's right. You might think, oh, wow, DFS, I can't win DFS. Oh, but you can on Fast Draft. You just pick any 6 guys and you put them in a handful of booster spots. There's no salary rubric you have to follow. You're not going up against thousands of killer bots in these tournaments. Oh, no. These are regular people grabbing their 6 favorite plays of the week, and that's all you have to do. And we post the ownership so that you can choose how much chalk you want. There is no drafting. It's called the Quick 6 Super Slam. The Quick 6 Super Slam is the signature DFS contest at Fast Draft. It is changing DFS. We are making DFS great again. So go to fastdraft.app and use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. And let's go start drafting faster.
All right, and we're back. So let's see. Nelson, did you finish up on yours?
Yeah, I was talking about the wide receivers, the guys to grab this week if they're available. And then at running back, the only guy that sticks out to me is Bam Knight, if he's available at all, which it's not much. But if Benson had a setback last week, Bam Knight could be a startable piece the rest of the year. Other than that, this is the week where you either keep some handcuff running backs or you're going to make tough decisions because you're trying to set your team up for the shootout, and you're going to drop some handcuff running backs that you've been holding on all year long. But if they don't have a role, then there's no point in carrying them. If you need a backup tight end, if like your tight end room is really weak, maybe you need to add a third guy. If quarterback is questionable, you need to add that. And then playing defensive matchups if you want to have, 2 or 3 defenses for the shootout. So
Nelson, I'm sorry. Were you done? I just wanted to ask you something.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you finding you're having a tougher time this year setting up your teams that you take into the playoffs, just trying to get through these couple weeks here with the buys and the injuries and everything? Because I know I am. I'm trying to set my teams up for the playoffs, but I really can't. And I'm just trying to get through these weeks and navigate that. I don't know if you guys are having that same issue.
Yeah, I have a lot of T. Higgins on teams, Marvin Harrison, a Drake London here and there.
Yeah.
Eating
up bench spots is what I'm saying. Like these guys are eating up bench spots. Guys you're hoping to come back, stashes, this, that. It's tough adding that second defense to play out your fantasy playoff roster, back up your quarterback, stuff like that. That's all I'm saying.
I found it very difficult.
A lot of these studs are hurt. So instead of being in your starting lineup, locked in, and then it frees up a bench spot, you're not playing them right now. They're hurt. So you need to fill in that vacant spot in your starting lineup, and that's where it gets really tricky with having some open spots to get a defense and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you lose a Drake London, I mean, you've not only is that guy sitting on your bench, but it's probably, you're looking at this week, next week, the following week, you're going, I might need a couple different guys to replace him because I'm not going to want to start this guy that I'm starting this week every week. So it's like I'm holding a guy to start week 14 that I don't really want to start weeks 15, 16, or 17 if I don't have to. So, now I got another guy I got to hold in case one's still out longer.
And this London news is murky, with Raheem Morris saying he's day to day. He might it sounds like he's got a shot to come back this week, but
he ain't playing until he's 100% healthy.
Say it again.
He's not playing until he's 100% healthy.
Listen, he could. I don't even know what I half of my Drake London teams. I'm like, just sit out another week, get ready for 15. Other teams, I need him this week. He's in a tough matchup with Seattle, but you might be right, Nelson. I don't know if this lingers a couple extra weeks and the Drake London season goes in the trash here.
Yeah,
what do you guys?
Last season for the Falcons,
Mm-hmm.
he wanted a contract this past summer, and the Falcons weren't interested in didn't put any, good faith towards negotiating a contract. He's hurt now. The team's not going anywhere. He's gonna not so much him being. This is not a shot at him being selfish. I think it's business, right? So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So teams use players all the time and call it a business. Players know that. So why is he going to go risk and play at less than 100% banged up for a team that's not going to the playoffs? And he's looking for a contract that, because I believe he's on his is the final year of his rookie deal, I think.
He's got to be close to that. He's been around a few years.
He was looking for a contract extension this summer. I want to say that that's the case. So I
would think they still have one more year to give him that 50-year deal or something. I think they have some
he
time.
hasn't been in the league 5 years.
Yeah.
But real quick on Amon-Ra St. Brown, are we all buying that this is only a 1 or 2 week thing? Because we've had this story happen a few times. Bucky, there's been other guys that always supposed to miss a week or maybe 2, and it's winds up being 4 weeks or more.
I think I've been saying the last couple of days, I'm not shocked if he's back on Thursday night with a low ankle sprain, but I think he's definitely back the following week. He's got the extra rest after the Thursday game. They said that, the 1 game in 16 days for him. He'll be ready to go, but I think the Lions season quickly has become on life support. It really is crazy. The teams that are on life support right now that are supposed powerhouse teams, like the Lions and the Chiefs and etc. The Ravens losing to Cincinnati. A lot of these familiar team names that are always in the playoffs every year might be on the outside this year. And Detroit, if they lose to Dallas. By the way, let me get this in real quick. I know I went all in. I pushed the chips to the table with that Dallas bet versus Philly. I'm doubling down Thursday night, okay? Chips to the table. Biggest bet of the season, okay? Dallas in Detroit wins outright. Dallas plus 3 point. I am absolutely shocked that Dallas is getting points from the Lions. If Amon-Ra sits out that game, Dallas should be a 3-point favorite in Detroit. I have no clue what Vegas is thinking with this game. Okay. Dallas on fire, fully healthy, goes into Detroit and beats them. I already put the bet in. I might triple it. I don't know. I'm just saying all in on Dallas. Steve G, go to Luger's again after Dallas wins in Detroit this Thursday night.
There you go.
Go ahead, guys.
All right. Just a little housekeeping on Drake London. This is going to be – he's on year 4 of his contract, so the club option year is coming up in 2026. But we know how that sometimes goes. So get ready for a rocky road this summer if the Falcons and him aren't getting things put together.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking about getting teams ready for the playoffs. One place where it's easy to do that, or can be easy to do that, is with your defenses. Hopefully, you've got a couple set already. I don't like going into the playoffs with less than 2 team defenses, just so I can kind of flip back and forth based on matchup. But a couple that I'm really looking at. One I've already talked about the Saints. They're still only about 50% owned, I think, in prime times. and similar in other contests. So, you got about a 50-50 shot of getting the Saints. But they've got Tampa Bay, they've then Carolina, the Jets, and Tennessee. Really nice schedule to close out with. And then the other one that's even more sneaky, I think, is Dallas. Dallas defense playing a lot better. 10% owned, I believe it is, in the prime time. And they've got Detroit this week. That might be a little bit tougher, but then they've got Minnesota, the Chargers, and the Commanders to close out with. So that's three pretty juicy ones. And Dallas defense is starting to score points in fantasy too. So got to love that.
Good points, Dan. I've been stashing that Dallas defense for the fantasy playoffs as well. The tough part is, you say the Saints. I don't know if I'm buying in with you with the Saints defense, but Dallas, yeah, there's really no other defense. I'm looking at fantasy playoff schedules the last couple of weeks. Nothing stays out. You're going to have to carry two in and go matchup. San Francisco's a bad defense. They've got some juicy matchups in the fantasy playoffs that you could use too, but it's tough. I don't know if any of you other guys, Jacksonville, I stashed them a couple times. Obviously, we know about Tampa. Tampa's the one that, everybody's been trying to get, but that's old news already. Everybody saw that coming ahead of time. Anybody else got another fantasy defense that's sneaky for the playoffs?
No, I like Jacksonville. I picked them up a couple weeks back where I could.
Yeah, I think they're 100% owned now in the prime time, if I remember right.
By the way, while we're talking about fantasy defenses, absolute trash week from fantasy defenses. Not only fantasy defenses, but fantasy kickers as well. A lot of shit performances that, like I have a lot of Browns defense and Steelers kicker. I got 1 point from each. The Chiefs kicker, I gave Bucker 2 points. There was a lot of 1, 2, and 3 points from my defenses. And the Rams defense, I know, gave 2 points. The Ravens defense, 2 points. Like, I'm just saying it overall, if you go through fantasy kickers and defense, it was a wipeout, or you got slaughtered if you ran into the Seattle kicker and the Patriots kicker with a 20 and a 17. And the Seattle defense, obviously, was quarterback, our running back, and wide receiver 1 of the week with 32 fantasy points in NFFC scoring. So it was complete feast or famine in the special teams department. If you ran into a Seattle defense team, those are the teams that most likely got over 160, 170 points this week, while guys like me were living in the 100 range.
Right. Yeah, I just I looked up NFFC Saints. The last 3 weeks, Carolina, Atlanta, Miami, 14, 12, and 7 points.
Okay.
So solid. I mean, they're not somebody that I like. I don't think they're gonna have a blowout score like what Seattle had this past week or anything like that. But I think they're a defense that you can roll in there and feel pretty confident they're gonna hopefully get you more than 5 points every week from here on out.
Yeah.
Did anybody else watch that Olave drop late in the game where he would have had that touchdown? I mean, he had a solid week, but that would have been like a great week. And that was just devastating. That was so
brutal.
Yes.
Matt, I think you're up, brother.
Okay. It's always darkest before the dawn, and that's pretty much how like Sunday was going from beginning of the 4 o'clocks. And look, the NFL put all their good games on Thursday. They put all their top teams pretty much on Thursday. So we got, those crappy leftovers Dan mentioned. I was thankful. I got some lucky sweats. I got all 4 of my mains in. That Harvey touchdown in overtime, I couldn't believe. I stopped watching the game with 3 minutes left. I'm like, I'm not going to win this one. And I put on Landman, and I saw Scott Jenstad text, Harvey, let's go. I went right to my phone and I saw that.
Matt, you had a game. You had a fantasy playoff game in up for grabs, and with 3 minutes left in the game,
it was over.
The Landman, huh?
It was over.
Well, obviously it wasn't because Harvey scored and you won,
and it worked out. I stopped watching and it worked. So sometimes you got to do that. You got to walk away.
Oh, all right.
But then last night I got lucky. I was facing the Patriots D, and I had Trevion Henderson with a few-point lead, and I watched them return that punt. And I was like, oh, God. But, so sometimes, you get lucky. JSN, I don't know
the
how
Hunter
I got
Henry one. Can we talk about that real quick?
Oh, take it away.
That touchdown removed by penalty, that won me a game. I was going to lose if that one counted.
That was a heartbreaker for many. Actually, good for you. So, but so I mean, and the JSN, the guy's been pretty much all world all year, and I got most of my JSN teams through. I think maybe the one I didn't was where I had him and Justin Jefferson, but I got to check that out.
JSN, listen, I see a lot of people complaining about JSN. Oh, JSN killed me. You can't complain about it.
Yeah, you can't.
JSN's been automatic every week.
You know
what? I have a couple JSN shares. I'm actually happy that the dud game came now and not in the fantasy playoffs. Get it out of the way now. He wasn't going to drop 20 plus every single week. It happened. It sucks. Any week it happens when you get this deep into the season, it's going to hurt. Okay. But, JSN people cannot complain at all.
Oh, Chris, I'm with you. I mean, the fact that I was able to get most of those over to the finals, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
BTJ came back. What a hell of a block he threw on that.
Come on, man.
That play.
He's a blocking wide receiver.
I had to bring that up because I got 2 BTJ teams in championships this week. One in the main.
How many points do you get for blocks?
I know. I was being sarcastic, Dan.
Oh,
This week's tight end boomer bust is Darren Waller. I was able to get him on a couple of more teams. I had dropped him on some when I had picked him up earlier. I don't know what to expect, but I think, he's a live play this week versus the Jets. So hopefully he does something. I have a question for you guys. This one's a selfish one for me. In one of my gorillas for the championship. It's a really good team. I have Mahomes and Goff at quarterback. I'm leaning Goff here. I have Gibbs and J-Mo on that team. What would you guys do? Houston's defense has been really good.
Are you favored?
I am favored.
I would go with Goff, I think. He's been a quarterback one for like the past, probably 7 out of 8 weeks or something like that. He's been on a nice streak.
Yeah, well, if Monra doesn't play, I'm not going down without Mahomes as my quarterback, and I don't care that they're playing Houston. Give me Mahomes till I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Nelson, you got any comments on that?
I play golf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Justin Herbert, breaking his finger might cost me because I dropped J.J. McCarthy finally like a week or 2 ago. And I don't have another quarterback besides Herbert because I have May.
These are observations, not your observations. not your team review.
All mine got taken up. I had
one of these days we'll get Matt to do one observation at a time.
I need this guy. This guy hurt me.
I'm just talking about stuff What if you have Herbert? If you're a Justin Herbert owner and you had a Drake May on your team or Brock Purdy on your team, and who's out there this week? You pick it. You got to go with Trey Lance.
You got it.
Herbert's playing.
I mean, I hope he plays.
He's going to play through it. He's going to have a cast.
He already said it. Yeah, he's going to play. The guy played the whole second half with the broken bone. Now
I hope so. But
they're going to put a pad on his, in the back of his left hand, and and he'll be definitely playing. But Matt, the move there is you go pick up Trey Lance for $2, one or $2 this final week, and you're good on a Monday night. You're covered, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, you're covered, but I mean, how good are you feeling about Trey Lance, and especially if you're in like a championship week?
Yeah, sure, but you don't want to take the zero.
You're not picking up anyone better.
Yeah.
At this point,
that was basically my point. You're pretty like even Shuck is gone. You can't even get Shuck anymore.
Yeah, Shuck and jive. Yep.
So that was basically.
All right, Chris.
God, where am I going? I wanted to talk about the Tampa Bay offense here a little bit. Bucky Irving comes back. immediately goes into the bell cow role pretty much. Well, I mean, I should maybe stop short of that. He got the touches and everything. I think he played at like 55% clip, but it immediately relegated Sean Tucker back to being useless. Rashad White mixed in a little bit, but they told you the story of how it's going to go going forward here. For all the Bucky Irving owners, Dan, you talked about Terry McLaurin. Well, Bucky Irving is the equivalent of Terry McLaurin, at the running back position for the fantasy shootout here. Tampa Bay's offense is going to be interesting. Ibuka, we touched on. He's been fading and hasn't done much. Bucky, if you could get a Bucky Irving team into the fantasy playoffs, he might be that difference-making type running back. Baker has slowed down at the quarterback position, but I think we're all on Mike Evans' watch now. Nelson, you've touched on it over the past couple weeks about stashing Mike Evans. Well, now the news comes out yesterday that he might practice this week, and it's not even like if you've stashed Mike Evans, if he gets on the field, if he gets in the game this week for week 14, that's great and everything. But even if he doesn't, it sounds like maybe week 15 is a realistic possibility. And Mike Evans is now 100% owned in the NFFC. I don't know. I'm sure he is in the FFPC, or maybe he was dropped and you can't pick him up. You guys could touch on that if you want.
He was blocked.
He was blocked. All right. So, I mean, you had to keep him this whole time. But my point is this. You might get Mike Evans for the final 2 weeks of the fantasy shootout. Okay. And, you might not be able to, you're not going to get a bigger piece that was dropped off the waiver wire these past couple of weeks than a Mike Evans on your fantasy shootout roster. And while I touch on Tampa Bay offense, Chris Godwin actually looked pretty good to me as well. I know he dropped an easy touchdown in the end zone, but when he did catch the balls, he was moving pretty good. So my point is this: Tampa Bay's offense has taken a pretty good step back this last month in general in a whole. Might be one of those offenses that I talk about with, the arrow pointing up these final 4 weeks. If they get everybody all on the field here, Bucky, Mike Evans, a healthy Godwin, and Ibuka could go back to being, not the focal point here.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is probably going to help Ibuka, but I do think that you're exactly right. Investing in the Tampa offense and being able to start those guys in the shootout is going to be very helpful, because I think there's going to be quite a few of them that aren't in there at high ownership percentages.
I mean, imagine if he plays this Sunday. Imagine if Evans plays this Sunday and you get that week. I wouldn't start him in week 14, but a week to shake the rust off, run the routes, get in acclimated, and then you get a Mike Evans that you picked up for a couple bucks in the last month, and he's going to play all 3 weeks of the fantasy playoffs. And, you mentioned the Tampa Bay schedule. It's a dream schedule, for the offense. So just something. Evans could be, one of those pieces.
Yep, totally agree. All right,
Nelson.
So talking about difference makers for the playoffs, I mean, I look, again, my mindset is more of like, okay, what guys, instead of stating the obvious of players that are already on rosters, I'm always looking like, okay, like who are the guys that maybe are available that could help you out? I already touched base on like all those guys. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. So like, some guys that got us there that now seem to be fading. Chris touched base on it a little bit. I think there's a lot of teams that had like Rico as a key guy for them that was really helping them. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the last couple of weeks that looks like it's starting to diminish a little bit. And Chuba looked better than him this past week. And I think that could be back to like a true like 50-50 committee where they just roll with a hot hand type of approach. And it's not Rico being the guy moving forward. So he's kind of like one guy that comes to mind for the shootout.
Nelson, he took himself out of the league winning. When everybody talks about league winners, and you got a Rico on your roster, and now he was a solid like RB1. He's taken himself out of that mix now. Like that's what's happened. Like he might be a useful piece, but it's a true 50-50 split. They had 18 touches to 17 touches, but if you watch that game, it was Chuba. It was Chuba looking better. It was Chuba playing more, and Rico has now taken himself out of the mix. He's nothing more than a desperation flex.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
This guy's been really like hot and cold. He's either been really good or really bad. But teams, again, going into the playoffs have been using him is Kamani Vidal, and you've got Hampton coming back. And I actually think it's like a double whammy. So I look at it as if you've had Vidal, Hampton is gonna basically like put the kibosh on that as far as being able to start him. But at the same time, if you've been holding Hampton, Vidal's been good enough that it's not just going to be the Hampton show. I think very much so. Like this is going to be a committee, and it's kind of like Trevion Henderson and Stevenson, right, in New England, where Henderson was, showed up and was like carrying teams there for a little bit and was playing getting the whole workload. And then last night you started to see it where it's like, all right, here we go back to like a full-fledged committee. So I think there's a few of these running back situations where it's like these guys, they've been either not carrying you, but really helping you into a playoff push, or you've been stashing these guys in hopes that they come back and now you've got somebody that's relevant. And it just feels like it's going to be like it's going to be murky. It's going to be kind of like a shit show.
It's a situationship, Nelson. It's not a relationship. It's a situationship.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to hope you're wrong on Nelson. I'm going to hope you're wrong on that Chargers backfield. The Vidal Hampton thing. I have a couple Hampton teams that are going into the fantasy playoffs, but Vidal's had some, like he'll have a off game and he'll have a good game. Unfortunately, now he's coming off of the good game. So yeah, it's easy to see that being a timeshare with Hampton come next Monday night. I don't know if maybe this is just wishful thinking. There's really no rhyme or reason behind it other than I was kind of actually hoping Vidal had like an off game this past week.
That's what I'm saying. You, as a Hampton owner, or if you're counting on Hampton as being kind of like that X factor, I'm saying that like Vidal has not cooperated. Like he's been good enough that with Hampton coming off a fracture, I just don't see him like going back into a bell cow role. Yeah, at least for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but I could also see it. Look, I needed Vidal too, and he's been like every even week or so. Like he's 1 week on, 1 week off. But again, if Hampton is healthy and he's out there and he's doing what he was doing pre-injury, I think it'll be more like a Bucky Sean Tucker thing where he's pretty much the guy, and you'll see like Vidal get a little spots in there.
You're hoping that it doesn't turn into Rico Chuba backfield, and you're hoping that Hampton comes back and they immediately treat him like a Bucky, where it's the Hampton show once again, and he only lost his spot because of injury, and hopefully Harbaugh is one of those coaches that rewards that. But Vidal looked good, this past week. Maybe it's a 2 series for Hampton and a 3rd series for Vidal. That's all us Hampton owners can hope for, though. He looked good in the clips that I saw.
The good news, I think, is probably that
Say it again, Dan.
Yeah, I think the good news is that they've held Hampton out this long. They don't seem in any sort of a hurry to get him back until he's fully healthy, kind of like the Bucks did with Bucky. So hopefully it is that same kind of situation. It's not one of those deals where Hampton was rushing to get back as soon as possible, and he's still a little gimpy on the foot and all that kind of stuff. So I think we'll have our answer pretty early into the first game, just by looking at how Hampton is playing.
Yeah. Nelson. Sorry. What other players you got?
So at wide receiver, So, Chris, you mentioned like Jacoby Myers, like that's a good one. Like when I look at it, I'm like, I could see this guy being a problem down the stretch. The other guy, and again, it's all dependent on injury news. But Jameson Williams is going to be a problem. So when I look at that, and they changed like his route tree with in that Thanksgiving game as soon as Amon-Ra went out, and he's running more of those crossers where he can separate from the corner and take it to the house. Like he's going to be a problem. Like he could be like a true difference maker if Amon-Ra misses time.
JMO, you have to be giddy as a Jameson Williams owner going into Thursday night's game. Now, listen, we all get giddy for certain, players in certain spots, and it's hit or miss. It's 50-50 whether it comes through or not, but he's the focal point of the offense in a game that's a 54 total. You've struggled all year long, most weeks with Jameson Williams if you were his owner. This is the game right here. If you're in a spot for the playoffs or you're going for a division, a league win or whatever, a playoff spot, Jameson Williams probably a top 5 guy that you would pick to be on your fantasy roster in week 14 right here. But Nelson, real quick, I wanted to touch on that with Jacoby Myers while you're at it with Jacksonville. It's two-folded. We lost your wide receiver 1, Parker Washington. I don't know what that is. I haven't gotten much of an update with Parker Washington, but it looks like it might be a hip injury. It probably cost him some time. The chemistry was already building with Jacoby Myers here. Okay. It's just another offense that looks condensed here where not only Jacoby Myers, but I don't know if you were going to mention Brenton Strange at the tight end position here.
I was going to get to tight end on a couple of guys.
Yeah, I apologize. I'll throw it right back to you. But, at the top of the show, I mentioned the 5 names that could be that secondary player that some people have rostered. They didn't go into the season relying on them. And Myers was one of those guys. You could just see it. I'm not so sure that Brian Thomas is the wide receiver 1 for Jacksonville these next 4 weeks. The way Lawrence and Myers' connection has been. Jacoby Myers is a very, very good wide receiver to begin with, and he just might prefer him. So it might be if Parker Washington's out of the mix, Jacoby Myers is a set it and a locked in guy here for the next 4 weeks. At least I'm hoping so.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
Go ahead,
and then like at tight end, obviously, you got your normal guys like Bowers and McBride, but if you're looking at a guy that you picked up the last couple of weeks and stashed, Strange was the guy that I was going to mention. That's like 2 weeks in a row now where he looks good. And I know Lawrence, before he got hurt, he was already a guy that, Lawrence was targeting. So he could potentially really help out teams. And then the other guy that I was going to mention was Waller, which I think Maddie mentioned at the beginning of the show. He's another guy that I circled, that I looked at as, well, before he got hurt, he was a difference maker. Like he was averaging like 15 points a game or something like that. Yeah. So I look at it as first game back, not so bad, but like he's another guy like that you got off the scrap heap and he could potentially go into your starting lineup and help, if you've got a hole at tight end.
He's got the Jets this week.
Yeah,
he's also when you look at the fantasy playoffs, he gets the Bengals right in the middle of it, and we all know by now
that's the holy grail.
That's the holy grail for tight ends right there. So I think it's week 16. Waller gets the Bengals. So if he's available on the waiver wire, he'll be a huge ad, in this final week.
Do you guys see as a long shot guy to make a difference possibly? Jalen Coker, will the Cokeheads be excited?
Yeah. He's like right underneath for me from like Mitchell and Vele. Like he's right there. Like I could see him where he's starting to flash again and is probably starting to feel a little bit better coming off that injury, and he's flashing from last year, what we had noticed from him.
The weirdest part in that game was Bryce Young pretty much sucks until it's like 4th down, and then he's throwing dimes.
Yeah.
For touchdown. It's like long touchdown. That was wild.
Another weird game, right? Like, who would have thought Carolina 10.5-point dogs loses to the Super Bowl favorite in the beats the Super Bowl favorite in the Rams. NFL is completely wide open.
The 7-6 Carolina Panthers.
7-6.
Well, when Stafford throws interceptions like that, especially with pick six, that's a game changer right there. That's me. I can't believe we still haven't talking about Lamar Jackson. He's broken, guys. No longer a top 12 quarterback in fantasy points per game of all the quarterbacks who played 6+ games. So, I mean, I know it, and it's a really bad streak, less than 10 points each week for the last 3 weeks. What are you guys doing with Lamar Jackson going into the playoffs here?
I don't think you're going into the playoffs.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the truth. He sank your team.
Listen, this past week, I had a primetime team in playoff contention. Lamar, Zay Flowers, Amon-Ra. It's game over. So that's what, like the Lamar teams that you had, it's just not like quarterback didn't score all that well. It was, some no names like Mariota and Bryce Young and not saying Joe Love is a no name, but like he comes to mind as like not a guy readily you're starting in your starting lineup. But I mean, Lamar's just like he's tanking your teams, and I have a couple of Lamar teams where I look and I'm like, yeah, I'm toast. Yeah. So
what was egregious in that game? I'm not really. I think I have one share of Derrick Henry, but Henry was performing every time they gave him the ball, and they just went away from him. And he would have had a monster game, and that game might have been different.
Yeah, just baffling. Lamar Jackson, 4, 6, and 8 points. I think it is the last 3 weeks. He's completely tanked your fantasy team. Nelson, that's a sick trio right there. Lamar's demise has also come at the expense of Zay Flowers, who I don't have many Zay Flowers shares, but Zay Flowers is on our first place OLC, right? The Fantasy Empire team. That and we're still killing it. But if he could turn it around these last 4 weeks, I can't see Zay Flowers having this bad of a season. There's some guys that are just in absolute fantasy hell right now, and it's Justin Jefferson, it's Zay Flowers, big time names that you expect to produce, and it's the $1 million question every week. How do you put these guys on your bench? Lamar Jackson owners are really going to have to look in the mirror this week, though, and determine, he's got another good matchup versus the Steelers defense. What do you do? I'm glad I don't have any Lamar shares, but it's not about me. What do you guys do? You guys are all Lamar owners. Like, Nelson, tell me, who's your quarterback with Lamar? Probably nobody great, right?
I can check that. But...
Okay. Dan, Matt, you got Lamar teams?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple, but they're pretty much. I would assume they're pretty much done at this point.
They're out. Dan, you have a Lamar team in the running?
No, not in the running anymore. I do have in like Dynasty, in the running in standalone leagues.
I mean, the last 3 weeks you had to play Lamar. You had to play him. And
listen, he was great in September. September's a long time ago, Matt.
Right.
Yeah, no, but I'm just the matchups, the Jets, the Bengals.
Sure. He did have that one good game versus Miami when he came off of the IR, when he came off of injury.
Yeah, the point was you just weren't sitting Lamar, especially even with those matchups, even if he wasn't 100%.
You just can't overcome a 4 and a 6 and an 8 by your quarterback 3 weeks in a row down the stretch, unless you have JSN and JT and everybody else on your fantasy roster. That's
Josh Allen was almost going the same route against the Texans. He had 8 points, 6 points, and then the Steelers until that second half, he had 2 points going into half.
Does anybody see a fantasy quarterback these last 4 weeks starting this week and into the fantasy playoffs, that you could see carrying and being on everybody's
Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
If you picked him up.
Yep.
You know,
Jacoby Brissett. I mean, if you're looking for guys that are, that we weren't counting on at all.
Dan, everybody wants to say Brissett, and of course, Brissett's been unbelievable. Week 15, first week of the fantasy playoffs, he gets the Houston Texans defense. He plays
right,
against
but this
them.
is why you carry more than one quarterback, Chris. I mean, you don't
but the
you don't want to
question
go
was,
into it
can
with
you
just
see one quarter? No, but the question was, can you see one quarterback carrying you for the 4 weeks of this week and the fantasy playoffs, where he's in and he drops 30 plus fantasy?
But
I could.
But is that the right question to even ask? That's what I'm saying. Is that the right question to even ask? I mean,
I believe there is one. I believe like a Jackson Dart, because they got an easy schedule.
Right,
they got the Raiders. As long as he doesn't, get knocked out again.
To Chris's point, though, you can't use him this week. I mean, I think that's why the answer is
15, 16, 17. I thought we
but the answer is I don't know that there's any quarterback that you can count on for the next 4 weeks. You got to use what's working. I mean, the last week in the top 12 quarterbacks, we had Young, we had Mariota, Mariota.
How crazy!
I'm so glad that became a huge story the next day, because while I'm watching the game, I'm like, "What the f is Collinsworth keep doing?" He was like Mariota. Like,
he was so afraid of not pronouncing it correctly. He made a jackass out of himself.
Anyway,
but Dan, you're saying that you don't know that there is an answer to that. Well, then that's the answer. Like it's, I'm saying. It doesn't stand out to me right now that there's a quarterback that you look at his schedule for the next 4 weeks and you're like, I could see 30 plus points each week from this guy. This is my guy that I want to have. I'm not saying the elite guy, Josh Allen. I'm just saying like a mid-level guy.
I think you got to have the platoon. I think you got to have a couple guys, and you got to have looked at the matchups and say, yeah, I can start this guy week 15 and 16. I start this guy week 17 or whatever it happens to be, But I think that the platoon system is going to work for a lot of people if they've got, the quarterbacks already set up. If you're just setting up your platoon right now, you're probably in deep doo-doo.
I mean, I would say a guy that pretty much has all indoor games left is like a Jared Goff, if we're looking for like a mid-range guy. I mean, he is facing the Rams, but he's got the Steelers, the Cowboys, and then Minnesota, which, they've just become a dumpster fire.
Nelson, anybody?
Dak.
Yeah, Dak has got a pretty good schedule.
Sure Dak would be the main. I mean, we're all hoping it's Dak.
I mean, the number one schedule belongs to J.J. McCarthy. So
you just hope that first week of the fantasy playoffs that Minnesota could come in there and give them a little bit of a back and forth with their shit offense. That's what that game is gonna.
I think there's three guys. It's Dak, Drake May, Baker.
Baker is probably the answer here. I'll give you that one, Nelson. That's when I'm thinking of it. I'm going to throw out a crazy one to you. That was going to be my Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. I don't know.
Trevor Lawrence's schedule is brutal.
Yeah, let me hear it, Dan.
Well, he's got Indianapolis. Jets is okay, and then he's got Denver, and then he's back to Indianapolis again.
All right, so Denver, I forgot the Denver one. So that's probably that's not happening.
To his credit, he gets 20 points every week.
The Colts would outsource Gardner and the Jets in Week 15. I was like, I knew that was okay, but I forgot about the Denver, so irrelevant. But Baker, I think, is the right answer there.
Yeah, Daniel Jones doesn't have a bad schedule. He's got Jacksonville, Seattle's tough, but then he's got San Francisco and Jacksonville again. So.
Got the Niners too.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's a semi decent one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Matt, what do you got?
I don't really have much. Basically, just one little take of a non-fantasy, like the real NFL. I mean, this year we don't have that dominant team. I mean, the Rams and Seattle really good. The Patriots. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, but I think they're a really good team. But they have benefited from just a dog shit schedule. I mean, but that's part of how you go from worst to first in the NFL. You get to play these bad teams, and that's how you see it happen, like especially in a lot of divisions. Like, what is it, the South? Like every year, the team in last place jumps to first place. But the lack of there's so much parity. There's like too much parity for my liking. I like when we have a couple of like standout teams, but I mean that's really we've kind of touched on everything. The one guy at like running back that maybe could be like a dark horse because Tracy got hurt last night. Singletary. I mean, Singletary, you know, in a desperation, if you're in the playoffs and you need a flex, somebody gets hurt. He's got a nice schedule. They don't have anybody else. So that would just be a crapshoot dark horse running back.
I thought Tracy last night, it was a concussion. And obviously with the bye week, I think he would be fine. But now everybody's reporting it's a leg injury.
They said the hip or something. Yeah, they said he got carted off.
But the hit was to the helmet and he went down. I don't know, maybe he hurt his hip or leg on the way down or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep your eye on coming out of the bye, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really all I got. I mean,
speaking of hard hits, Gunnar Olszewski.
Take the paint.
There has no flag on the play.
I was like, please get the cart. This guy should not even be on his feet, even with two people helping him. And
there was no flag on the play.
Well, yeah, because it's a return, so
you can't go helmet to helmet on a kickoff.
Even on a return, it's legal.
One last statement.
So you can headbutt the guy on the tackle straight up. Really? Isn't that what the NFL wanted to try and take out of the whole return game the first time they switched the rule?
I don't know why it's legal, but it's legal.
That Brock Bowers touchdown catch was amazing.
Better catch, Bowers or what do you call it? Treylon Burks on Sunday night.
I'm gonna go Bowers because when you watch it, it's just amazing how he caught that going down like it was so low. I know the other one was high. They're both great catches.
You got to give bonus points to Burke though for the first finger that caught the ball was the one that he broke. So
I probably didn't even feel it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. But I mean, to be able to have that kind of touch on a broken finger.
Props to Marcus Mariota for his play this year. He's actually played really well.
He has.
I mean, coming back in that game, that was crazy. And, you know, he's been suitable. He's better than some quarterbacks.
I was screaming at my TV because there was one team where I was like, if Denver gets the ball again, I'm going to lose my playoff game here. I cannot have Denver get the ball again. And then, they score, and I'm like, oh, God, here we go. But fortunately, they went for two, so everything was good. But, oh, man, that was a wild ending to the game for sure.
I want to mention one guy that came to mind is A.J. Brown might be a difference maker.
Oh, definitely.
And I got to think probably low owned in the shootout.
Would have to think that.
He's been putting up some big games here lately. The Eagles don't look like they can run the ball. And like the exact opposite, like Saquon is tanking teams.
Oh, Saquon is the Lamar at the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you face the Bears with missing 4 linebackers, okay, in that game? And he actually didn't look so bad, like, in the game. They went away from, like, the run, like, real quick, but they also were losing. And that game was so perplexing to me because
that game was so bad. That game was such dog shit boring that I think I took a 5-minute nap during it. Like, I couldn't. Like, I know Billy Waz we would text. He was like, I actually fell asleep for 10 minutes. Like, it was god awful of a game total. I can't believe that a 35-point fantasy performance came out of that game with A.J. Brown, as bad as the Eagles offense. Every drive they were getting booed off the field, and somehow A.J. Brown goes and pulls off a 35-point performance. But just a dog shit game.
I just think it's shocking that Saquon is literally in one of the best spots this week for a running back against the Bears, who can be run on, and they're missing their 4 linebackers, and he puts up 5 points. And on the opposite side, I 100% convinced myself that Swift was a sit, like he was a bad player.
Me too,
yes.
Nelson.
He barely played any snaps the week before. I was like, okay, I'm worried about that. I'm like, this matchup looks brutal, and I'm not playing him. And then like,
He looks fantastic.
yeah. That was
Dan,
so.
did you actually just say Monangai the right way? What happened to Monangai?
Shh, don't tell anybody.
I was gonna say, you guys didn't pick up on that. Dan's been saying Monangai the right way today.
He has.
I worked on it. It was, you know, I had my speech therapist out, and we, you know, we went through.
I'm still shook from the Mariota Sunday night.
But Nelson, yeah, I mean, bizarro world, right? Barkley looks like it's just finally could be a 20-point game for Barkley here. I think the stat is like 6 straight games under 15 points or something like that. Well, not maybe 6 straight, but like 6 of the last 8, he's been under 15 fantasy points.
Speaking
Complete
of players
bust
who should
season.
be low owned in the shootout,
Oh my
Barkley's
God,
definitely
yeah.
got to be one.
For sure. I don't see any hope of him turning it around, though.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy part. On the flip side, my Monangai shares, I didn't even think twice about starting versus the Eagles on the road. I thought it was going to be a complete trap game, not trap game, but like a bad spot for the Bears, especially their running game. And then they both go over 100. They both drop 20 fantasy points. Just one of those things you just shake your head at, no doubt.
Yep, definitely. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and Nelson's going to actually let it go for 5 seconds so that our producer can find it, and then we'll be right back.
And we're back.
Oh,
Close enough.
That was like 3 minutes.
Nelson gave a half a second.
Yeah.
Nelson,
Close
gave
enough.
a-
You're forcing me to write this one down every time. I'm like, okay, I got to get the exact second so that we can we can get our producer.
Just do one Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Looking at the Eagles' schedule, like maybe I don't know. Like I don't know if Saquon can be a difference maker, but like low owned in the shootout, if somehow you could like sneak in a Saquon team, like that's a good schedule. That's Vegas, Washington, and Buffalo, which that's Buffalo's Achilles heel is the run game. So like
I have one big Barkley share in a prime time, and it's with Jonathan Taylor. I've talked about it before. The team is in 3rd place going into this final week. It's either going to be me or the other Chris Eibel, actually. Me or Eibel that go to the fantasy playoffs with the 3rd spot.
I think I'm in that league.
Huh?
I think I'm in that league with you guys.
Yeah, I think you are. It's either me or Eibel that's going to get that last spot, and if I could get a Barkley team in, it'd be something that'll be interesting to keep to follow. He definitely will be less than 5% owned, I think, in the fantasy shootout.
Just a quick point on because he was so bad, like the first 5 or 6 weeks, whatever it was, and he's been amazing since. Chase Brown, I mean, how that guy has transformed his season has been quite remarkable.
Yes,
Yeah.
but how do we feel about Chase Brown now? I was excited for my Chase Brown team that Burrow was back. He's throwing to him out of the backfield. It looks like Chase Brown's going to have a nice ending here with catching 5 to 7 balls each week here with dump offs from Burrow in this Bengal offense that you have to be giddy about. We didn't touch on T. Higgins, but man, I think Nelson, I know you're in the same boat as me. We're on T. Higgins watch here Tuesday morning. I'm going to church after this and praying that T. Higgins shows up on the practice field tomorrow, or you start getting some good news here. I have a bad feeling that it's going to be another absence, another missed game from T. Higgins with how bad it is. But I cannot afford T. Higgins to not show up in a dream game with the Buffalo Bills. There's 2 games that we're all focused in on as fantasy owners, I think, this week. The Dallas-Detroit game, hopefully, is a carnival, and the Bengals-Bills game, week 14. These are 2 games that could determine a lot of money in week 14 here. There's fantasy studs all over the place, but we all need T. Higgins. Our owners need T. Higgins in that matchup, to give it a go here. But
I mean, I don't know. I got to be
Chase Brown point real quick.
Yeah,
Everything I said that it's Arrow pointed up. Wait, Matt, last thing. Sam, but he only played 60% of the snaps. Pirine came back and immediately worked into his, ate into his workload. And it's like a give and take. I think when Chase Brown's out there, he's going to touch the ball a ton. But we really didn't want to see that with P. Ryan. We liked when P. Ryan was out and Chase Brown was touching it, 90% of the snaps. So
I agree with that, and that's to me. But he still had 15 rushes. He got 7 receptions.
that's what I'm saying. It's a give and take though on 60% snaps.
Yeah, but I mean,
Like
and you got Buffalo.
Thing.
Look, this guy was dead. I mean, he was like Lazarus.
Sure.
I mean, he was killing you, and he basically has over 100 yards every week. So
Definitely another name that will be probably 5-10% owned tops in the fantasy shootout, Chase Brown, because of how bad the first 8 weeks were. Throw him in with Barkley and Jeffersons and Zay Flowers, guys like this that have had below average seasons, but maybe you sneak it in with the rest of the talent on your roster. We have to answer that question, guys. It's a question that I need answered as well. Dak or Burrow? I have 3 big Dak Burrow teams now, hopefully going to the fantasy playoffs. I could tell you right now, I'm going with Dak this week on Thursday night. But, man, it's tough to sit Burrow, if T. Higgins plays for sure. What are you guys doing? If we get news before Thursday that it looks like T. Higgins is going to play, or even if that matters, I don't know to you guys. But Dak or Burrow this week?
that's tough because what's his name's on the IR, right? One of the DBs.
Yeah, Arnold even went to the IR. Yep.
Yeah, no,
Detroit's falling apart.
I'm playing Dak.
I'm playing Dak, but it's so close. I mean, Burrow against the Bills.
Yeah.
Here's one more for us on the other end of the spectrum. Lamar or Stroud. I don't know how you get to the playoffs with that, or even think about the playoffs with that decision. But anyway,
I would go with
Marty's
Lamar.
got that.
I would go.
Yeah,
with Lamar.
I got to go
I'm
with
not
Lamar
going.
too.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm touching Stroud.
There's no sicker feeling than you think you're going to outsmart yourself and go, I'm going to start CJ Stroud over Lamar. And then Lamar comes out and he has his 30-point fantasy game in week 14. And you're the idiot that played CJ Stroud over him. Right. So if Lamar gives you the 6 again, you eat it. You landed on a grenade this year, but you go down with your stud.
Now, if you're asking, like, is it going to be, Lamar or Mariota or something like that, then I think it's a little bit more of a discussion. But otherwise, it's pretty tough to bench Lamar.
And one quarterback we didn't mention who does have a favorable playoff schedule is Brock Purdy. I mean, he's got Tennessee, Indiana, and the Bears. So, and that Bears game could be a huge game as far as like seeding for six. Because if the Bears lose this week, they go from the number 1 seed to the number 7 seed.
Yeah,
that's how wild it is.
That is crazy. That is crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen that San Francisco fantasy, playoff schedule, and it's mighty tasty. So yeah, the 49ers offensive players, Kittle, McCaffrey, these guys can play a huge role for you.
That's another good question in the chat, Stafford or May. I think that's just a weekly thing on the matchup.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, play it by matchup. Am I up, guys? I just have one thing I wanted to add on to 2 things real quick. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is complete trash. That game was pathetic. Their offensive performance was pathetic. I don't know what you do now with any of these guys. It just looks like a team that's about to tank and go completely backwards. DK Metcalf's been a huge disappointment these last month plus. Even Jalen Warren now is taking a step backwards. So I don't know how many useful pieces the Steelers are producing, but that's a team I could see just not winning again and just tanking the rest of the season and just being done. The Steelers are shot, and they suck. The Eagles' offense, Nelson touched on it. I wanted to add that in. Complete trash all around. I know A.J. Brown gave the big games, but they're another offense that's just stuck in the mud. We've been saying it for a while. I don't know how much they're going to help you in the fantasy playoffs. I know you guys said A.J. Brown, but I don't think he's even reliable, even though he's had 2 good weeks. And then the last thing with offenses, we watched it last night. But where the F is Stephon Diggs, and how completely useless is he in this offense? Diggs, I've never been I so wrong. I remember in October after he had that one big game versus the Patriots. I thought he was going to take off for the rest of the season. Say that again?
You mushed him.
I did. I hand up. I mushed the guy. I thought he was going to be a major fantasy piece. Totally wrong. He's unplayable. How about that? I think he's unplayable now. If you have him, he's just on your bench, and that's it. They have way too many pieces in this passing game that they sprinkle all around. It's basically the Buffalo Bills offense. They just sprinkle it all around. Mac Hollins, Booty, this guy, that guy will catch a couple balls each. You can't rely on anybody. I thought Diggs would be the clear one, and he's not.
Yeah, I was, and Nelson knows this. I was going back and forth on a team I co-own with Bit Mandel. We have Shakir or Diggs was our decision, and the answer was
pillow fight.
Neither one. We should have started
Dalton
Schultz in the flex rather than either one of those. But that's the way it goes.
I got a wild observation, just real football too. If the Bengals, even if they lose this week, but if the Bengals win this week and next week, they probably can win that division because then they finish off with Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland.
I think it's wide open.
It is.
Yeah.
That's just think if they won that Bears game.
I think the biggest thing that came out of Week 13 was the Bengals beating the Ravens. It keeps the Burrow, Chase Higgins, Chase Brown, everybody live for the rest of December. You don't know what would have happened if they lose that game. I'm not saying that Burrow. I don't think by any means that Burrow would have just been sat, but it's a different mentality. Now you have the Bengals showing up to practice this week, foot on the gas. You can forget about what happened the first 13 weeks, but at least they're here and they're ready to blow up fantasy for the next 4 weeks.
I'm terrified this weekend as a Bills fan. I think they go in and win that game.
I mean, yeah, should be. That could be a real big back and forth game, man. That I hope that weather doesn't play. I don't know what the weather is. I know we're in December now, and weather plays a major role. We saw it this past week with a lot of games with bad weather. I'm just praying that Buffalo gives one of those 30 degrees and 5-mile-an-hour wind type games on Sunday, and not one of those typical Buffalo 30-mile-an-hour winds, rain, snow, shit. Don't fuck with the Buffalo Bengals game this Sunday, Mother Nature.
Yeah. Well, when you're going to church, I mean, there's another one you can be praying for.
Dear God, don't mess with the weather in Buffalo, please.
That's the way to go. Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, they have the Bills touchdown thing on Hallmark for everybody.
By the way, real quick with the Bills, hopefully we get Dalton Kincaid back for a Bills matchup this week. I don't think anybody's talking about that.
That's an excellent point.
If Dalton Kincaid, I mean, he started practicing late last week and then obviously ruled out. But if he shows up on the practice field today and tomorrow and he's going to give it a go, man, is Dalton Kincaid a top 5 tight end play in week 14 after missing the last month with injury here?
If it's versus the Bengals,
30 points guaranteed, 30 points.
Yeah, it's and obviously Josh Allen misses him. They don't have anybody to go to, so we'll see. Kincaid
Chris,
and
I want to.
Yeah.
To your point, I want to push back a little bit on. I know Pittsburgh looked like crap.
Yeah.
Sunday, but they've got Baltimore, Miami, Detroit, Cleveland as their last 4 games. I mean, Baltimore has looked almost as bad as Pittsburgh. Miami and Detroit, definitely teams you can score on. I don't know. I think it's a little bit early to count out Pittsburgh. They're 6-6. They're still tied for the top of their division. They're not quitting. That's for sure.
Damn.
Whether they can do something with it or not, I don't know. But that
was my point. Like, listen, we went into this game. The Bills were missing what, Matt? 4 starters on
offense.
Like
the offensive line, they had 2 guys out.
That starters. Too, and Pittsburgh couldn't move the ball.
They ran the same play over and over.
Yep.
James Cook, they just kept running the same.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, but offensively, I hope I'm wrong. They do have some good matchups down the stretch, Dan. But versus versus the Bills defense was a great matchup this Sunday, and they just stalled out drive after drive. They had nothing going.
Yeah. And it's definitely a concern, but I'm not quite ready to write them
They
off.
They have 0 completions over 20-yard passes in like the last 5 games.
Right. And that is a problem for sure. I mean, I think they might actually be better with Mason Rudolph than a quarterback. I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy.
I think everybody, they both suck at this point. Rodgers is struggling.
Joey Bosa blew him up.
Like broke his nose or whatever.
Nelson, what do you think? Mason Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers at this point?
Rodgers.
Okay, still Team Rodgers.
Yeah, the issue is the offensive coordinator. Always has been. I think he just got to the. He gets away with it in some games, and then other games, if they've got a good game plan, he just doesn't. He doesn't adjust.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing to keep your eye on this week is Marvin Harrison might have just came back, made a cameo for Week 13. This heel injury, it might turn out to be a lot more than people are thinking, and that's twofolded. For us Marvin Harrison owners, we would have had a nice piece these next 4 weeks to come into a good fantasy offense that we were hoping for. And on the flip side, if he does miss time, it's back to Michael Wilson and Trey McBride season. I mean, it's Trey McBride season regardless, but it might be Michael Wilson seasons back on again for these 4 weeks. And there won't be a big if they just somehow say, they're shutting Harrison down, put him on IR or whatever, he misses 2-3 weeks. Michael Wilson could definitely be one of those guys that steps right in as a fantasy wide receiver 2 or 1 for the fantasy playoffs here with Brissett throwing him and McBride the ball. So, I see Scott Colby's talking about Dortch too, but he won't play that big of a role like a Michael Wilson will. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye on. Injuries are going to play the role. Like, first off, who's going to get hurt in Week 14 that opens up a spot? Does DeAndre Swift go down in Week 14 and it makes Kyle Monangai, the fantasy playoff league winner? Something's going to happen in Week 14 with an injury where it creates a big fantasy player for the fantasy playoffs. It happens every year. It's going to happen to 1 or 2 teams here. That, along with the injuries to all these guys, Harrison, T. Higgins, Drake London, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Benson, and Hampton. These are the big names that we're on call for, waiting to see what happens with these guys.
That and who's going to be the fantasy hookup for the dance? Like it was, right. It's been Burrow or Chase or Burrow and Higgins, or even with the Saints that one year when me and Andy could have won the overall, and freaking Breeze and what's his name, Michael Thomas just went nuclear.
We answered that already. It's Stafford and Devontae.
Well, that's been.
Listen, we know what the major hookups are, right? It's Stafford to Devontae and Puka. It's Burrow. If Higgins could get back, it's going to be Burrow to Chase and Higgins. It's sneaky. It could be Sam Darnold to JSN, right? And it's Dak with Pickens and Lamb.
Daniel Jones, Alec Pierce.
If Amon-Ra gets back, Goff to Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Are we missing any other ones?
I'd throw out there.
It's Mahomes to Rice.
Yeah,
Mahomes to Rice.
Sure.
Look, Rice he's just a baller, man. That guy, he's had one game under 18 points or one.
How about this stat? Since Rashee Rice came back, which was in Week 7?
Mm-hmm.
Rashee Rice has 130.6 fantasy points. JSN has 130.6 fantasy points. So since Week 7, Rashee Rice and JSN are deadlocked even as wide receiver 1 for fantasy, which means basically Rashee Rice would have been JSN for the first. Just saying, it could have possibly happened. Rashee Rice has to be looked at just along the same sentence as JSN right now for the rest of the season.
And shout out to Steve G with the Taylor to AD.
There you go, Steve. Don't forget, Steve, double down. Dallas this Thursday. Take yourself to Luger's.
All right.
What else we got, guys?
Anyone? No?
Yeah, pretty much done.
Okay. All right. Well, one final reminder for you guys. Please, even if you're out of the playoffs, please make that minimal effort required to set your best complete lineup during the final week, especially if your game could possibly affect the playoffs in any way. It just really sucks to see a team given a free pass into the playoffs because their opponent couldn't be troubled to submit their best lineup. So just, finish out strong.
Being that you mentioned that, Dan, what is your stance if a team didn't set their lineup this week, and then week 14 you're telling them to set their lineup, so that guy gets screwed? I'm just saying.
Right. I get
Because I
it,
have
but
that situation.
they should be setting their lineup every week. 100%.
No, but I'm saying if the person didn't set the lineup in week 13, now they should just magically go in there week 14.
Matt's asking the guy to not set his lineup again this week.
Two wrongs don't make a right, Matt. That's the way it comes down.
I got a lot of matchups where I'm actually getting lucky, getting in on record, and I need to win. I don't want no one sitting their fucking lineup.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah,
there you go.
Not in those matchups.
Yeah. But then again, you might need, if you are, like a 10-3 team going up against a 10-3 team, and your opponent has, or the other team that's 10-3 has an opponent that's not setting their lineup, you kind of want that lineup set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand. It's going to go both. It's going to go both ways.
It's always it will, but do the right thing. Just finish out strong.
If you didn't set your lineup in week 13, you shouldn't set it in week 14.
No,
that's it.
Totally disagree. Two wrongs don't make a right. All right.
That's like dropping Fab week 14 when you're doing 2-11.
Yeah, you haven't done anything. You got $900.
That's gonna be the funniest thing. I have a guy in my bullet that has $1,000 Fab, and he hasn't made one move. He's got $1,000, and I'm like, did this guy just draft the team and then just fall off the face of the earth? It would be hysterical if he came in and dropped $1,000 on Isaac Tesla tomorrow night.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
last thing.
Okay.
The Jawan Jennings was called a hoe. Everybody says he's a hoe now. I thought that was hilarious.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
All right. That's our hoedown for the week.
All right. One more thing.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us this week. As always, we love the feedback. Hit the like button, leave a comment, give us a review, whatever's appropriate to the format on which you're consuming the show. We definitely appreciate it. Good luck to everybody in the Empire this week. Let's get in those championship games. Let's get in the sprint. Let's bring it home. So we'll see you all next week.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.